Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Extra 5%, a podcast designed for ambitious people that are looking for that little bit extra to get them to the next level. I'm Christian Dye, and today we are back with Gilles Baudet for a deep dive on the main traits and habits of highly successful people. In this episode, you can expect to learn the key variable that separates success from failure, the common traits found amongst high performers, how they create a recipe for success, and much, much more. Gilles, welcome back.
Christian, hi. Thank you.
A pleasure.
It's really good to be back.
Glad to have you back on. I'm really looking forward to kind of unpacking this because I think it's quite an interesting topic when we were speaking about it the other day because there are so many different industries you can find high performers. You can find one in every industry, but you're saying to me earlier, you feel like there's some common traits, common themes across all of them. Yeah. So it'd be great to hear your thoughts and what that looks like.
Yeah, I guess for me, what's been really interesting is these podcasts are really working for a lot of people. So I just want to say thank you so much. I'm getting a lot of feedback on the day-to-day. A lot of people are listening to them, and a lot of people are getting a lot of education. And I guess the reason why we do this is because we want to make sure that we're able to reach everybody. And nowadays with the podcast, people can just, do their ironing and whack us in their ears and learn, which is, I think, just incredible. So it's really working. So we will continue to deliver more information and more education and motivation and hopefully a little bit of inspiration for everybody. At the moment in my career, we have lots of offices across the United Kingdom. And I've gone back the last sort of 18 months to run an office, and we started with just a small bunch of people, and we've grown that into 3 offices so far, and we're about to open some more.
Great.
The office itself, my office, as you know, last week did 23,000 in MSF, in invoicing, which is great. I believe we're going to hit 30,000 within the next 4 weeks. I think we should be there. Things are going really, really well. The people I'm working with are doing exceptionally well. And what I'm noticing is a real difference, because I'm working day to day with these people. I'm noticing a real difference between what makes somebody successful and what makes somebody not successful. Right. And I'm also noticing, if we go a little bit deeper, is what makes somebody, no matter, even if they've had success in the past, what makes them to continue to succeed, and what makes some people be that sort of one-hit wonder. They go and do well, hit a big target, and then never seem to be able to re-hit that target. And it's a really interesting podcast, and I can't wait to dive in.
It's an interesting one from the lens of direct sales because, I've been in it long enough to see people who have had massive success within a very small time period, but then maybe fall off later on. You have those other people who seem to kind of go through the peaks and valleys, and I'm sure you see that across most industries. So what, in your eyes, could say are some of the main traits that separate these successful people?
Okay, so I've really got it down to 5 traits that make people highly successful. Okay. And they all sort of work with each other. So number 1 is high energy. You've got to be energetic because it's a transfer of energy. If you're energetic, your customer's going to have more energy and feel more positivity and feel more impulse. The people that you work with are going to feel your energy, feel more impulsed, feel more excited, feel that want to work. On a podcast, if you're boring, people aren't going to listen. If you're excited, people are going to listen. So number 1, high energy is super attractive. Now, I don't mean by bouncing off the walls, but I mean consistently higher energy than the majority of people that you're working with. And it's really important to be more enthusiastic and more energetic about what you're doing, where you're going, your career, etc. I think high energy is really attractive. People attract to positive energy, obviously. So everybody I look around that's been successful, especially around me, is all number 1 had a high energy all the time. And what type of energy? Positive. Okay, it's not like a high negative energy. You've got to be positive. Even the successful people have a real ability to be positive in a negative situation. And even when they're having a bad day, because we're all human beings. We have good days, we have bad days. I wake up and I'm good, I wake up and I'm bad. That's just life. But it's your ability to have that high positive energy consistently every single day that I think is one of the main traits of successful people, having a high positive energy.
I think there's an interesting caveat in there because, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on how that looks, because you could talk about high energy and it's just like, things are amazing, but that isn't going to suit everyone's personality type. So what does that look like for someone that maybe isn't, a really, really bounce off the walls kind of person? How could someone like that still be high energy, but still do it in their own way? What would that look like?
Sure. So lots of eye contact, lots of enthusiasm when they're talking, always be the one to take control and take charge, always be the one to be interested in people, always be the one to be impacting and teaching people, always be the one to talk big and to talk about your goals, always be the one to do meetings with people, always be the one to if there's a problem, go and find the solution, always be the one that's just generally got a smile on their face and is happy to be there and happy to be in their career and happy to be progressing every single day. I think high energy is attractive, and it's also when things are going not so well and sales are low or mood is low or there's an issue. It's always that beam of light that goes, hey, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. Let's just go this way. That sort of leads, like the shepherd that leads the sheep, be that beam of light in good times and be that beam of light in bad times. And I think we just have to try to be a little bit more enthusiastic, try to smile a little bit more and be a little bit more self-aware and think, okay, cool, we're in this situation. I've got to be at my best. How can I be at my best to lead my people or the people the best I possibly can to, a place of success rather than a place of, failure.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. The person that comes to mind a lot when I think about leadership is Steve Jobs. I don't really know why. Maybe because I'm a big Apple geek. Yeah. But I think he stands out to me because if you've ever seen any of his speeches, like, he's quite a chill guy, but he built this enormous company, which obviously takes quite a lot of leadership and energy to get all these people excited about a goal. Yeah. But he's done it in his own kind of Steve Jobs, I'm cool wearing a black turtleneck.
He's such a visionary. Yeah. And he's so great at explaining, where this business is going and what these products can do and how they can change the world. And he's an unbelievable visionary.
Which is another way of the high energy thing without it being like, Apple's going to take over the world.
It's just being convincing about this is what we should be doing. This is where we should be going. Let's go. Absolutely.
Great. Okay. I love that. So high energy is number one.
High energy is number one. Number two, you've got to be very driven. Now, you've got to be highly driven every single day. You've got to have the drive to do what you need to do to be successful. Some things that to be successful you do want to do, and some things to be successful you just don't want to do. You don't always want to work the late nights. You don't always want to have to work till midnight on a Friday. You don't want to have to get up on a Saturday morning all the time. But these are the traits that you need to do to become successful. Being successful 9 times out of 10 is pure work ethic. The more work you put in, the more results you're going to get out. The more results you get out, the more money, the bigger the business. It's about being highly driven every single day, every part of the day, every week, every month, every year. You've got to be highly driven. And you've got to learn how to make yourself highly driven. And this is something we can talk about in the podcast is how do you become driven every single day? What drives you? What motivates you? But if you look at the traits, so number one is to have that high positive energy. Number two is to be really highly driven every single day. It's about success, especially in sales and entrepreneurship, is about that effort you put into every single action. How quickly can you get to the next customer? How much enthusiasm are you going to put into your introduction? How many times are you going to overturn that customer? When somebody says no to you at the close, have you got the energy and the drive to keep overturning and keep finding the solutions to their problems and keep going until you make a sale? Once you've done one or two sales, do you relax, or are you driven to keep doing more? If you hit a really big goal in your career and you're making more money than you thought was possible, can you be driven to get to the next one? Drive is absolutely huge. So number one, a high positive energy. Number two, to be driven.
I mean, they obviously go hand in hand, and that makes a lot of sense. I think the interesting thing for me is you said at the start that you have to sometimes work the late nights and do the Saturdays and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think it's probably important to note that isn't like that's life every week. But from what I picked up anyway, the difference is that the people who are highly driven, highly energetic, and they're going for it, they're willing to go the extra mile to do to do whatever the business needs to do to move it forward. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. The next one, which ties into driven, is discipline.
Okay.
Discipline is the ability to do what you need to do to get the results that you want. And I had really worked on my discipline, because I don't think many people are disciplined, as a child and as a teenager. But as I got older, I started to really lean into being disciplined and learning to do things that I didn't want to do, but I knew I had to do to get to what I wanted to do. And I think, David Goggins talks about this. It's like putting calluses on your brain.
Yeah.
Every time you do something that you should do, but you don't really want to do, it really toughens up your mentality. And there's actually parts in the brain that become bigger and stronger. This is from Andrew Huberman, a podcast that he's talking about. Now, I don't know the scientific and technical understandings of this, but what I do know is, in layman terms, in Gilles terms, the more things that you do that you don't like to do, that are going to get you to where you want to get to, you put calluses on your brain and you toughen your brain. So I'll give you a little example. I have an ice bath every single morning. As long as I'm at home, I'll have an ice bath. And this morning I went down, I don't actually know why, right? But it was at 2 degrees. Now, 2 degrees is really bone-shattering cold.
Really cold.
And I really didn't want to get in. And so I started mucking about with the sauna and just started just doing a little bit of stuff and tidying and just, getting all the bits and pieces down there in that part of the garden together, putting off the ice bath.
Procrastinating.
And I'm like, Gilles, get in the ice bath. And the rule is, as soon as I hit my stopwatch, I get in and I'm there for 3 minutes. So I jump in for 3 minutes, in 2 degrees. And I was there for 2 minutes, and usually I do 2 to 3 minutes. But if it's 2 degrees, I will do two minutes. And because I procrastinated, I stayed in there for 3 minutes and 3 seconds. And I got out. It was very cold. I felt amazing for the rest of the day. I still get a buzz from it. I'm so glad I did it. But I just punished myself. I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't want to get in there. You are going to get punished. You're going to be in there for an extra minute. And I think the reason I do that is because I want to be as disciplined as I possibly can, so I can have the best life I possibly can. And it's like a reward system. I'm trying to give myself gifts. So I'm 44. I want to give myself gifts for when I'm 54. It's like, what do I want? Well, I want a really healthy, physique. I want to be healthy. I want to be, disease-free and injury-free. And I want to be super able. And I want to be able to keep up, if not beat my children in running and cycling and all that sort of stuff. And what other gifts do I want to give myself? I want to be really content and happy with my life. I want to be wealthy so we can enjoy this planet that we're on and go and explore it. I want to have an even more successful business. All these gifts, I'm like, if I'm disciplined now and I do the right things now, in 10 years or in 5 years, I'm going to have all these gifts that I've given myself, which I think is really, really precious.
I really like that. That's a really lovely way of framing that, because it's like you're paying it forward for future Gilles, for your future self.
Yeah. And what are you actually sacrificing? Like, what are you actually sacrificing? Not much. When you actually think about, this is another great thing I love about discipline. I call it the 10X rule.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's raining and you lie in bed and miss work, right? You've actually taken a huge step back in your mentality, in your resilience, in your career, in your reputation, et cetera, et cetera. If you go to work and you succeed and you sacrifice that. So the other day, Glasgow's had some great, sorry, I'm just thinking of stories. I've got an even better story. Our spring in Glasgow 2025 has been amazing.
Oh, it's been like Ibiza in the summer.
It's been like Ibiza. So on Friday afternoon, where do you want to be? Do you want to be selling or in the beer garden with your mates? Exactly. You can either go with your mates and you can have fun with your mates and you lack that discipline, or you can go out and sell. And I call this the 10X rule. If you go out and sell and succeed, what you're actually doing is you're swapping that moment for a moment where you're going to have 10X. 10X the time. So instead of taking 1 day in a beer garden, you could take 10. You could also have 10X the money. So instead of having £100 to spend in that beer garden, you could have £1,000, and you could have £1,000 for 10 days. And you could 10X the moment from a pub to a pub in Ibiza. People don't realize that. If you work really hard now and make those sacrifices, or it's not really a sacrifice, just swapping, then if you do that and you get the skill set of what you need to do and you build that business, then you can 10X your life. Mm-hmm. So I always think about, it's really, really sunny. I'm going to, on a Sunday afternoon, I'm going to, stay here. The other day we were, at my holiday home up in eastern Scotland. Mm-hmm. And I had a really big week to get ready for. And, we were hanging out and it was amazing. We had people there and we were in the hot tub and we were in the beach and it was a really great afternoon. And we had the whole weekend there. So it's not like I was short of time, but I was like, right, 7 p.m. is my cutoff. And that's when I'm going to really prepare for my week. I'm going to make my phone calls. I'm going to get really, really ready. And it was, I said from 7 till 10, I'm going to work really, really hard. So I exchanged, that couple of hours. And nothing much was happening. Everybody was heading off and having showers, et cetera, et cetera. And I worked really, really hard. But I swapped that moment for 10X in a year or two. So I could have 10X the money, 10X the time, and 10X the experience. And I think if people understand that, then discipline becomes really, really easy. So the ice bath, horrible 3 minutes and 3 seconds. But the rest of the day, I feel 10X.
Yep.
And then over a course of a couple of years of doing it, my whole life has changed. My body feels better. My mind feels clearer. Everything, I could go into it. So I think you've got high positive energy. You've got a high drive. Mm-hmm. You've got to be disciplined, I think is very, very important. The third one.
Fourth? Are driven, discipline, is that the same one? Or
no, driven and discipline are two different ones.
Right, so we're on
because you've got to have the drive.
Yep.
But then you've got to do the right things with that drive.
Got it.
Because you could be driven to do the wrong things.
Cool. So we're on high energy, drive, discipline. Next one. Hit me. You said we got 5 total.
Thirst for knowledge.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
You need to learn how to do it.
Whatever it is.
You can't figure it out.
Okay. What do you mean?
So a lot of people go, I'm going to figure it out. And they go into their sales field, or they'll go in to try and build a business, and they don't have any experience, prior knowledge, understanding, education about it, nothing. And they go in and they just basically go in and continually fall over and fall on their face. And it's really disheartening and difficult, and they feel really low. And that's when all this doubt sets in. I can't do this. I can't do that. Entrepreneurship's not for me. I'm not good at sales. What I realize with super successful people, especially the ones that I work with, is before they do something, they learn about it. So here's an example. The first time you get in a car, right, with no prior understanding of how to drive it, how are you?
You feel like you're in a foreign land. You're looking at all the, especially for me when I was learning to drive manual in this country on the wrong side of the road.
Man, this is just a basic, thing. But if somebody sat there and for 15 minutes and walked you through it, you would be much further down the road than the person that's trying to figure out how to drive a manual car for the first time, won't look at the instructions, probably can't even unlock the car door. I think a lot of people are like, no, I'll figure it out. It's just this ego thing, and the ego just ruins everything. You've got to go, do you know what? I'm gonna learn how to do that and fast track that and do that the best I possibly can, so I can get to the next level, I can get to the next stage.
I think it's such an important thing, because everyone has ego in various ways, but it holds people back, I feel like, for almost the wrong reasons, because on the face of it, saying, "Oh, I'm going to go figure it out," sounds like a positive thing. But it's if there's that block due to ego, pride, whatever it is, and an unwillingness to look for help, then that seems to be where it holds.
I think people think it's like a weakness.
Yeah,
and they look at these entrepreneurs like, oh, they figured it out. What people don't realize, that I was really lucky to realize in my early career, is the most successful people in the world all had mentors.
Of course.
They all had mentors. And I see a lot of people now trying to become successful, and they're like, I'm going to figure it out. And I'm like, you don't have the right mentor. You don't have the right coach. You're not reading the right information. You're not listening to the right podcasts. And I think that's a huge reason why a lot of people don't succeed. I think it's really important to have the right coach, just have the right mentor, to surround yourself by the right people. It's like, and I really, really pride myself on this. There's hundreds of sales companies out there, but you have to choose the right one. Some will pay more money, some will pay less money. The one that I chose back in my career was, I didn't look at the amount of money I was being paid per sale, because if you're in the right company, you'll do more sales. I'm like, who am I learning from? And I learned from a chap called Michael, and he's now in America. And he taught me how to be a good human being. He taught me how to sell better than anybody could ever sell. He taught me how to recruit. He taught me how to do everything there was to do with running a business. And his standards were so high. I never saw him dip. The example that he set is the only reason I am as successful as I am today.
Wow.
Because it's who you learn from, who you surround yourself with, is who you learn your skill set from, who you learn your mentality from. So if you go with somebody that runs a small little sales company that's never really expanded, that'll pay you some good money, do you know what I mean, that isn't there mentoring you the entire time, then what do you expect to get out of that? I went into the relationship with Michael knowing that I'm going to be as successful as him. Even if I was half as successful as him, I'd be super happy. Do you know what I mean? He had everything I wanted plus more. And I was like, you're the one I choose to learn from and mold my life around. That's really, really important. And a lot of people, they'll chase an extra 10, 20, 30 quid or whatever. But when you look at the amount of money you're getting paid, that's just like 0.0001% of the entire bigger picture. It's what are you learning? Where are you going? Who are you learning from? What skill set are you acquiring? What mentality are you building? What mindset are you building? How are you learning how to future your entire life off? And that's really, really important.
Yeah, and I feel like it's such a lost concept on so many of the young minds today because
choose who you follow.
Yeah, but it's like we're in such an instant gratification society that if people are so accustomed to seeing results immediately from things that it can be, I can imagine it can be hard to see past, I could just get an extra £20 a sale, but there's all these other things. If it was just about money, then the world would just be run by the best salespeople.
Absolutely.
But it's not, because there's all these other things that tie into it. So I get that. But I like what you've said about the thirst for knowledge, because it is down to the individual to go out and get it.
I was just desperate to learn from people that did it right and people that did it wrong, what not to do, what to do. I used to go to Michael every single night and sit at this table and go, what do I need to do tomorrow? Just tell me, and I'll do it. I will do whatever you say, just frickin' tell me, because I'm getting this done quick. And everybody else out there, they can all go make their mistakes, whatever. I want to know exactly what to do. I said to him one time, every single step I take, tell me what to do. Tell me, because I don't have time to be stuck at this level. I want to be at your level. And I was just so desperate to get the knowledge to get to the next level as quick as possible. And it's still exactly the same. There's no, ChatGPT's my best friend. I'm just like, if I can shortcut this, then great. And thirst for knowledge and be careful who you follow. Follow the right people.
Okay, sweet. So we've got 4 out of 5. We got high energy, drive, discipline, thirst for knowledge. What's the last one?
Likable. I think likability is the most important thing.
Really?
Because you can be all those. You could be energetic, you can be disciplined, you could be driven, you could have all the knowledge. But if people don't like you, guess what? They're not going to stick about. They're not going to follow you. There's 2 parts. You're going to be good at the date and the relationship.
Okay. So
when you meet somebody in the first couple of days, that's the date. So you're going to be good at dating people. People are going to like you straight away. But then the relationship is all about the human being that you are. So you've got to get good at the date and the relationship. I think likability is the least spoken about trait for successful people. And one of the most, especially in my industry, sales and entrepreneurship, is the most important one. Because if people like you, they'll stick about and they'll follow you. If people don't like you, you're not going to have a very big sales team. You've got to learn to be likable. It's really difficult.
Why?
Why? Because being likable for a majority of people isn't that natural. And we're also self-involved that a lot of us aren't self-aware enough to understand, how we act and why we act and how our actions affect other people and how we affect other people. It's very simple. In my industry, the more people you have on your team and the higher their sales, the more money you'll make. So the more likable you are, the more people are going to follow you.
Sounds so simple.
If people don't like you, they're not going to stick about. They might stick about for a couple of days, couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. But if they don't stick with you, they're not going to stick with you long term. And we're here to build a business, not a rotation door.
It's an interesting concept for me to think about, because I personally that's not something I feel like I've struggled with, but it clearly is very important. So what would you say to somebody who maybe does struggle with the likability factor? How is that something that you can work on and
Research
improve.
it. There's so many podcasts on being likable. There's so many books on being likable. It's huge. I think self-awareness, I think we spoke about this before, but self-awareness is the most important tool to understand, noticing what you feel and why you feel it. It's about understanding how you impact others. It's understanding your own strengths and understanding your own weaknesses. And it's about sort of aligning your actions with your values. That's self-awareness. And if everybody had more self-awareness, I think this world would be a lot happier place.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I think if you want to build a big team, or if you want to build a big business, or you want to build a big anything, and it involves people, they need to like you, they need to know you, they need to trust you, and they need to want to get out of their bed and turn up for you that day. So if you're not likable, it's going to be pretty difficult to build a really, really big team.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. So that gives us a pretty good picture of a kind of, I don't know, shadowy figure with some key points because we've got
it's,
high energy,
driven, disciplined, thirst for knowledge, and be likable.
Perfect.
I think that
that's where we
encapsulates
start.
for me the most important 5 traits to become successful. And then we can deep dive into the others.
Okay. You know, I think that's good because you can easily see how those sort of things would fuel success, whether you're a sprinter, business owner, you're a doctor, whatever, anything where you're in a position of leadership and you want people to follow you. Those things all, seem important.
Yeah.
Give me some other intangibles, some other common things that you feel maybe aren't spoken about enough. What else do you think goes into it?
For me, it's being uncomfortable, happily discontent. So if you're happy where your life is, then your motivation will definitely drop.
Yep.
So I'm always slightly uncomfortable with where I am and always want to get to that next level. And I think that's a real discipline, and it's a real what can I say the word is? I think it's very important for you to understand how to keep motivated at all times. I think that's really important. But I'm always uncomfortable. Make good decisions.
If only it was that easy.
Make good decisions.
Okay, what's that look like?
Super important. We have decisions to make all the time, and they shape your life. Decisions shape your life. Should I run today and to my next customer? Should I go to the pub, or should I go to via Tesco's and get some food and hang out, and I'll see that customer in an hour? Should I go to the gym? Should I not? Should I go to the ice bath? Should I not? Should I run back upstairs and kiss my wife goodbye for the day and tell her how much I love her? Or should I just ignore her and run out?
Always the first one.
Yeah.
Always the first one.
Decisions, should I be there and, watch my daughter, do her athletics running, carnival in the afternoon, or should I just go, stay at work or go straight home? There's so many decisions. Should I go out and party, or should I go and get an early night so I'm fresh in the morning? There's so many decisions. Should I eat this chocolate bar? Should I not?
Right choice, not the easy choice.
Good decisions. Okay. Short term, so a few phrases: short-term pain, long-term gain. Short-term gain, long-term pain. Make the right choice over the easy choice. I make a decision by saying to myself, there's 2 ways I make a decision. Number 1 is regret versus happiness. So if I do this, will I regret it, or will I be happy with myself? So if I get into an ice bath, once I finish the ice bath, am I going to think that was a bad idea or a good idea? A good idea, then I'll jump in my ice bath. I'm out having a drink with my wife. Should we order another bottle of champagne? Am I going to feel good in the morning? Think we've had enough? Let's cap it there. I always think to myself, in is like, do I regret when I do this, or am I happy with myself? The other way is I think to myself, Gilles in 5 years, what would he want me to do right now? And all of a sudden, the right choice becomes very, very apparent. So yeah, be uncomfortable. You need to have good decisions. I think one of the most important things, and Tony Robbins is really big on this, and he says the difference between successful people and non-successful people, successful leaders and non-successful leaders, successful business owners, et cetera, sports people, is their standards. What are your standards in your life? Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
What are your standards? And the higher the standards, the more success you'll have, because you'll push yourself to different levels to meet your required standards. I think standards is really, really big.
How would you go about raising standards? If you're someone who's not come from the type of house that had high standards, if you're somebody who's maybe from an area where people didn't make as much money, they, didn't have aspirations of running businesses or, owning, their own problem. No problem. Everyone's different. But if you're from somewhere or have a background that doesn't have those high standards, how do you improve that? How do you change that if you want to?
I think we've got a wonderful tool that is connected to us all now, which is a mobile phone. So the young Gen Zs now, we all have the ability to get onto a phone and seek the life that we want to seek through social media. Some may call it FOMO. I don't. I follow people that have what I want, and I learn from them and am inspired by them. I think that's a big question.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't have Instagram. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Twitter.
Right.
I don't have any
Do
of
you
the.
not?
No, I don't.
Really?
I don't do social media. I just can't be bothered.
Can't be bothered.
But it's such a basic answer. You're like, Instagram. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you could do that. Because you don't know what you don't know.
The reason I say that is because the people that we work with are mainly Gen Zs, and that's what they do. For me, I didn't have social media. I do now, but I didn't have social media growing up. I just wanted more. That was pretty much it. I had a great upbringing. My parents didn't have loads of money, but I had a great, my mum and dad were good human beings and taught me right and wrong, and had a happy childhood. Nothing bad happened to me, and I just wanted more. I remember I was in Manchester and I was on a bus and I was 21 years of age, and I was standing at a bus stop, and a bus pulled up. Manchester rains a lot. And I didn't realize, but there was a puddle in front of me. It was the only time this has ever happened to me, but it did happen. Big, massive bus tire just went boom and landed in this puddle. I got sprayed, not all over me, but a little bit on my shirt and on my trousers. I was just like, oh no. I was like, not the best start of the day. Got on the bus, the gel in my hair was dripping into my eyes and started stinging. And I was just surrounded by, I'm going to say it, right? Just smelly people. It was so gross. It was so gross. So gross. And I looked across and looked outside, and this was really bad. It made me really feel claustrophobic, but everybody was breathing, and all the bus glass windows fogged up.
Yeah, the condensation from people.
Oh, I felt sick. I just felt sick. I'm like, I've had enough. I don't want to do public transport anymore. I don't want to be around these people anymore. I was like, I have had enough. It's time to get rich. Let's go. And I had I had a really big spring in my step that day. Because I was like, I'm not going to inherit any money. I'm not going to win the lottery. Just stop, I can't sing, right? I can't kick a football. I'm not a rocket scientist, that's for sure. We spoke about memory beforehand. So I'm like, I have to go and build this myself. So let's go. It's like, get on the train or get off the train. And I'm like, I'm on the train. And I just started to go all in. And, I just put every action, I just put way more effort in. And I started to think of the 10X rule. You know, I'm going to swap this moment. I'm going to give it everything this moment for I'm going to 10X in 1 year or 3 years time. And it's true. Now, you know, I have a 10X, 20X life than I did. But I just made a decision to change my life. I was like, I've had enough. I'm going for it. I just got emotional about it. I said, this enough is enough. And then if I'm here now, where are my children and family going to be? I'm like, okay, cool. I used to really dream of having a family on the field when I was on the field and think I really need to go out there and, you know, hit my targets and build a fantastic group of people around me because I need to provide. You know, I want to have a great life. This world is so beautiful. We need to go and experience it. We need to go and taste it. We need to go and touch it. We need to go and smell it. We need to go and swim in it. You know, we need to go and climb it. So, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. There's so much to do and less life that if you don't have high standards, you're gonna miss out on quite a lot.
Yeah,
which is fair.
absolutely.
So what else you got then? So
So self-awareness, being uncomfortable, listen, learn, and apply. Get very good at that. Make good decisions. We've covered. Have a high work ethic, which I think we've covered. Have a positive mindset. I think we've covered that as well. Problem solver. You know, building businesses is all about problem solving. So get really, really good at it. Selling, it's about problem solving. So become good at that. The bigger and the harder the problems you solve, the more money you'll make. That's the truth. Self-belief, you've got to have a little bit of self-belief in there and learn how to believe in yourself. You've got to have loads of goals, loads of purposes, and loads of exciting things. High standards we've talked about. The other ones we haven't so much, but you've got to live clean. I've never seen, you know, people that like to go out 24/7 become successful. I've never seen people with drinkings and drugs and all that sort of stuff. You've just got to live clean. I'm not saying you can't go out and have a pint with your friend, but, you know, live a clean lifestyle. I think is incredibly important. You've got to be consistent. You can't just have a good Monday, Tuesday, and then not good Wednesday, Thursday, because that doesn't work. You've got to be consistent all the way through till Sunday. You've got to be good at planning. You've got to be very, very routined, and you've got to be very, very systematic. So they are my traits. The 5 top ones, as we've high energy, disciplined, thirst for knowledge, highly driven, and likable. And then my sub ones are self-awareness, to be uncomfortable, listen, learn, and apply, make good decisions, have a high work ethic, have a positive mindset, be a problem solver, learn to believe in yourself, have lots of goals, have lots of purposes, have high standards, live clean, be consistent, plan, routined, and become systematic.
Whew. It's quite the list.
Is that enough?
I think so.
That's all I got.
It is loads to take in, and I think when you start to unpack it, you can see how it would apply across anything that you do. If you look at those traits and you look at what that type of person looks like, what do they feel like when they walk into it, and like what's the energy like? You're like, don't know what that person does, but they're good at it. And you can get that vibe almost off the page. Is there anything specific to direct sales that you wanted to call out, habit or trait wise, that we maybe haven't spoken about yet?
I think overall, I think we've really, really covered it. And this is like a nice short podcast for people to think, what do I need to do to become successful? What traits do I need to do? How can I research that? How can I get better at sales? How can I get better at entrepreneurship? Well, there's some traits. And I think the one thing in my industry, in direct sales, if you can't really nail one thing down, that's definitely not going to happen. But I think what I'd like everybody to focus on is being likable. How can you build rapport with people? How can you get people excited? How can you make people feel good about themselves? How can you educate people? How can you motivate people? How can you inspire people? How can you turn people on to buy from you? How can you get people to turn on and turn up the next day? Being likable is something that I'd like everybody to really try and focus on. Be a good human being and be a brilliant entrepreneur is what I would tell everybody out there.
Amazing. Perfect. I love it. And I really do appreciate the breakdown, because I think it's really clear and easy to see how that and these traits we've discussed would yield success, whether that is in sales, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in law, whatever that might be. So I appreciate the time, Gilles, as always. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. That was great. I hope this helps everybody.
So do I. Aside from that, I'm Christian Dye. This has been the Extra 5%. See you next time.